projects and more things to check today. So I think one of the first things that we do usually, if anyone that is new to the Wasm working groups could like to make an introduction, that would be really nice, so everyone knows a bit more about you. I don't know if anyone wants to start with an introduction. Okay, so I think we can start directly with the topics. So the first thing that we have for today is an introduction from Alan Pung. Is that correctly the pronunciation?
Yes.
Okay,
Alan.
thank you.
Alan. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So today Alan is going to present about Wasm Mock Server, which is a project as a sandbox proposal for CNCF. So it's your turn.
Okay. So allow me to share my screen. All right. So okay. My name is Alan. So last year I was invited in Cloud Native Wasm Day as a speaker. So I did some games with the Wasm Cloud. And I'm a very big fan of WebAssembly. So today my topic is WebAssembly Mock Server, which covers HTTP, HTTPS, TCP, WebSocket, and MITM tool. So what is MITM? What is this Wasm Mock Server? This is the diagram. So basically, I'm claiming to be the first person who does this MITM testing with automation using WebAssembly. Yeah, so what is MITM? Basically, you have this person, Alice and Bob. So Bob sends a message, and this person, Chuck, actually intercepts the message and send the message to Alice. So this is, we call it man in the middle. And this is actually a very common testing tool for software testing. So I'm not sure whether you heard about Charles Proxy, and some other mock server also does this functionality. So some of the things we have mock rules for the currently what they have is breakpoints or string replacement modification through code. So using WebAssembly, why use WebAssembly? Because WebAssembly can be compiled from many different programming languages. And you think about sending APIs, sending JSONs, but if you send WebAssembly, it can contain much more information than JSON. So layman term is just a better JSON. Yeah, so in WebAssembly, you also can import standard libraries like Crates.io, and my mock server also support automation. Yeah, so I'll just do a demo. So I just did what you see on the left is basically there are three things that I'll cover today is mocking, modifying the HTTP request, replayer, and automation. So over here I have is a playground, and a user can write in Rust code. Okay, and the mock server, you don't have to, this is just a playground. So here you can see is there's some macro to modify this HTTP request, the path t.json, and you can see there's very nice Rust language server running at the background in the browser, which also using WebAssembly. So you can actually see. So basically here's an example that if the path is t.json, it will send to somewhere else. When the response comes back, t.json will return data.hi. So let's just compile it. On the right here, you will see the compilation. How it's running. Okay. Yeah, there we connect to the virtual browser. Yeah, so what we see here is a browser in a browser. So to do the MITM, so you can go to yahoo.com. So it loads perfectly like a normal page, but if you put JSON, wait, sorry, something is wrong. Wait, sorry, I have not sent the web assembly to my mock server yet. So now you'll see t.json. Yeah, it's this. Yeah, so for people to, and basically the browser, if software tester will actually test how the website reacts with different variation of the backend data. So there are some age testing if the field is empty, or common cases is if the string is too long, and it should be truncated in order to display properly. So all this is quite essential. Yeah, so that's the module for the mock. What about the replayer? Replayer is something similar. So we have is additional of this HTTP replayer. You can see here there's this macro that does an assertion, comparing the response from A and compare with response B. So what it does is basically here modify HTTP request is like a Charles proxies map remote, mapping the traffic to somewhere else. And let's just compile it and see how is it. Okay. All right. So we can actually go to this page and see what it shows on the browser. Okay, this is a bit hard for me. Oops, sorry. Let me move this. Okay. Let me just. Yeah. Basically, it's showing site A. So here is the site A. So now we do a map remote, transfer the traffic to another web page. So the first one is Moonlit, the other one is Steady. So did we just send? We have not sent the web assembly. Yeah. Okay, it will take basically I set it to 30 seconds. In the future, I might have some for simplicity, I just set it at 30 seconds, so you can go to here and yeah, just go to base and charge. Yeah, so you actually see is site B, whereas here says site A. Yeah, so basically I transfer the traffic from one end to another end. So here there's this report link button. So you can see this is a HTML report. I'm so sorry about the color being a bit yellowish. Yeah, so yeah, basically there's this t.json. So imagine if your website, you have a lot of things to do regression. Yeah, this report will actually shows all the traffics that you actually did a map remote. Yeah, so you can see the assertion failed because the site A returning data is site A, but it goes to another one, it returns site B as a string. Yeah, so yeah. Okay, then that's the replayer, which I believe is very useful. And the other one is the automation. Yeah, so basically what is here is, if people write yeah, basically this one is to actually do a HTTP call for GET request to a mock bin, and this is the path, and we just check if the data is high, right? So we just compile it again. Okay. Okay, all right. Let me just send a web assembly. And yeah, there's a report link. Let's just see the report link. Yeah, so basically, the mock bin actually is returning ZZZ. Data is ZZZ, but your assertion is to check whether it's high, so it will fail here. Yeah, so actually, there's also to support integration with other platform. There's this Postman. It will generate the Postman API, the format. So let me just go to Postman and import this this file. And yep, basically, it just shows the request that I made. Yeah, so I just now I didn't click the proper one, but I think you can trust me on that. Yeah, let me just import it again. Yeah, this one data one. It's the same thing, right? Yeah. Then import as copy. How do I do? Yeah. And let me just, you can send and it's that. So the thing is, why WebAssembly, why Wasm Mock Server is so that you have a lot of capability, like you do not need to generate Postman JSON yourself. The Wasm Mock Server does it for you. So you just write simplicity. Yeah, so and that's only one part. So yeah, there's not a lot of tools that support TCP MITM. I think this one is a bit too small. Let me make it how to slideshow. Just, yeah, okay, yeah, sorry, this is a bit small, but let me just make it bigger. Yeah, so basically there's this is an example that it can also MITM TCP in order to build a WebSocket codec. So over here is the first example is it returns hello world. After mocking it, it can return another text like echo over here. Yeah, so it's quite important that these two support HTTP and also TCP. So it's TCP agnostic Yeah, so it's quite good if when we have different company will have their own protocol RPC. We can actually construct and handle the TCP package in a WebAssembly. So and you can still use the same tool. Yeah, so next time you go to other company, you still can use the same Wasm Mock server. Yeah, so how it works is the user can compile WebAssembly and send it to a Wasm Mock server. You'll get a test report. So the other thing is I've not mentioned is that user 2 has this option of connecting to Wasm Mock server through WebSocket. And how it works is that there's this dynamic WebAssembly inside the Wasm Mock server, which will dynamically construct the modules and register the functions such that it can transfer the data, the traffic to the user and establish a WebSocket connection. Yeah, so actually this is, I'm quite proud of coming out with this is because the code that execute this WebAssembly is the same code that that does this. So I have no I have I mean to actually, because I initially did this only, but for me to add this is very simple. Yeah, so this is a very good thing about WebAssembly. Yeah, so here's a browser version whereby I did is you can you can let people add protobuf and then you can let them do the protobuf marshalling and stuff like that. And this is a browser. Yeah, so because it's not reasonable to compile a WebAssembly when a user connects to WebSocket, but we can use a static WebAssembly file and then make the module like as if the user is compiling the WebAssembly by itself. Okay, yeah, I think over here this some of the things like as that motivates why as to I did this. I think I'll just try to do the slideshow. Wait. Yeah. So firstly, traditionally when people write Python for automation or Golang, it can be monolithic and it can be bulky. So you can have a automation QA, 7 of them, each one writing, committing code to it. So it can be a very difficult thing to manage. And then one person write a test case and it can panic and actually fail all the other test cases. But if you are writing in WebAssembly, you can run each test suite file separately. So what I do is I write it in separate files, and when I run it in loop. So one fail, it will not affect the others. Yeah, so it will not affect other user. Yeah, so assertion wise, okay, because currently a lot of time is the test data is usually they have to read from a file. Yeah, because there's no way to put the test data embed into the file in a source code. And when you, yeah, it will consume a lot of memory. So usually they will have to read from a JSON file. So the assertion is can be quite difficult. But the assertion in a Wasm base, like we see the ID and macro, is actually can be done programmatically. Yeah, and without much complications. Protocol support is sometimes they have to traditionally have to add the proto files to the repo itself. But this one is where Wasm base is add to the file, each file. Yeah, so it actually is quite yeah, if better. So about HTTP and TCP mocking, yeah, currently a lot of testing tool doesn't have the TCP mocking. So utility functions we talk about is so like when the user write a HTTP, writes the header, HTTP header writes the path. So we are able to do a lot of things. We are able to generate a Postman JSON for him. We are also able to generate the curl statement for him also. So in the future, next time, as the WebAssembly mock server improves and there's more utility that we want to provide, yeah, the user doesn't have to, import a library from us. Yeah, they just use the upgraded Wasm Mock server, and the upgrading can be done once and for all. Yeah, I think that's pretty much all for my presentation. Yeah, I'm open for any questions.
Thank you, Alan, for this great introduction to Wasm Mock Server. I think it's amazing. I find like super interesting this use case for WebAssembly. I remember in the past checking something around generating graphics based on WebAssembly models. So it seems that it's a good WebAssembly fits really well in these use cases in which you want to make some logic that generating it in a different way could take more or it's even impossible. So there are already some questions on the chat. So Sven, now that you have raised your hand, if you want to start with the questions, I will go later.
Yes,
with the
I
chat
see
ones.
the questions. Yeah, sorry. I can answer the question. So first question is from David. Is whether or not I can give advice when do you use Wasm Mock server or Charles proxy. Good question. Actually, on my daily work, I do use Charles proxy. Okay, so it's quite convenient of the breakpoint and modifying. I think, but they are using string replacement. So let's say you want to simulate empty array, then there's no string for you to replace. Yeah, so that's one. Another thing is, let's say I test backend Golang, something like that. So my Golang server makes a lot of HTTP calls, right? And I can't break and slowly one by one modify the JSON. Especially I would say is, let's say my server actually does a HTTP call to external server, and there's an API cost to it. So I want to basically mod everything without leaking my my calls to the original server. So I just did all this, and I can find some bugs. I use Golang. I use the what you call that, Go coverage, and one by one, I take the developer source code and one by one mock the data. And so yeah, I set up my database, I set up my cache, and really did it. Yeah, it does help. Yeah, in this way. Okay. Yeah, I hope they answer your question. This question is super neat idea. Use Wasm for this use case. From my perspective, which features are currently missing? Is there a field where looking for a contributor? Good question. I'm looking for, basically, I'm looking for somebody can help me advocate this idea. In terms of coding, this one I've been working on this about 3 years. Yeah, I mean, even since my previous job, I've been working on it. Yeah, in what ways? I think promoting it. Because I can tell you my code is Golang, so it is quite I think it's quite manageable. I really can contributor. Yeah, I think documentation is kind of good. Yeah, yeah, and I also looking to do a cloud service at like I said, I did a web page. So some people help to manage the website. It's quite good. Yeah, I think the background can be quite good. And yeah, there are some fields, especially I believe as we are yeah, there's like I just did a demo, right? A browser in browser VNC. So if somebody can port it, like Android emulator, stuff like that, it'll be good lah. Yeah, because all these actually, although you see it looks simple, but a normal software tester to use Charles Proxy, yeah, they have to install certificates on their devices. So I mean, it's gonna take some time for them to figure out how to install. Yeah, especially some Android devices mean certificate. You have to root the phone, so it's quite troublesome. Yeah, so I hope somebody can help in that area to make a Android emulator with the SSL cert inside. Yeah, good. So okay, yes. This question is: you agree that it's a great use case? Compart module. One of the benefit is JSON or YAML is that they are decorative. Am I planning a way to understand or a way to understand the context or specs in the output of Wasm module? Okay. Yes. This one actually, yes, I know like JSON is decorative in a way that in the Postman you also can write JavaScript things. Yeah, I think. Wait, do I have the example? Let me see. Yeah, I'm sorry, I don't have the example right now, but there's that some people write JavaScript inside, but there's a lot of things we do not understand, like is NA and then when I see there's an example, you can actually use the is NAN. What about random? What about can I import Node.js module? What about red expression, and what about supporting protobuf? Yeah, and some tools, they don't really, you have to go and search for their test cases. But for Wasm, it's very simple because you can always import modules like like a red expression module. You can import the protobuf pros. I did it. Protobuf marshalling. Yeah, it's quite good. Yeah, and yeah, I know people want to be prefer JSON. It's simple. But let me just share some of my experience lah. So usually if you do automation or you do testing, you will use Postman to send a, let's say to post a file, post an image file. Okay. So what happened for my case is that in Wasm, there's no file system. There's no file system. So basically I have to embed the image into my Rust file, and then I have to do multi-part for it to construct a multi-part form. And I imported the Rust create HTTP pass. Some of the multi-part libraries in order to do that. So once I did that, I understand something. I understood that, I need to handle the boundary. I need to know, I need to set the correct content length. So all this knowledge is very valuable. So which, if you were to do Postman, you just don't understand all this, right? It just works. So and then why is it so important to do this? Because the server, the developer may not use the correct they may not use the standard HTTP library, right? To pass, and their server could have issue if the content length didn't match the boundary, and they may not handle it properly. So if somebody were to set a wrong content length as a HTTP header, the server may crash, right? So all this is quite important in a way. In terms of technical discussion, so I also participate actively in the tech review, because one of the developer was saying something about not trusting the content length. Yeah, so they are looking for some other ways to determine the length of the file. But my knowledge of multi-part helps me in actually having a constructive conversation with them, saying that if your content length is wrong, then the multi-part will fail. Yeah, so it's very simple to handle that. I think in a way it really by going here you really will be trained to be a better software tester. Thank you. Yeah.
Thank you.
So I think I quite a lot of time.
I think thank you very much for replying all the questions, and a pretty interesting conversation and discussion about the project in general. So I know, Sven, that you had a question for Alan. It would be nice if we can move that to the end of the session, just because just to have some time for the next topic. So thank